we're gonna do this.
So how do I know if it's recording? If it says
It's
it
recording.
is right now.
It is recording.
It's like on the
okay.
camera. There's a little red light
Okay.
on the top left.
Okay.
Okay. So, to begin, first, a small disclaimer that, if you remember 2 weeks ago, I kind of poked in at the end to remind it, and I just felt like we could do it again and maybe we'll keep doing it. It's just about the relationship with walls when it comes to script writing, any general stuff in creating in general. What we're technically, you can do whatever you like. Like a lot of artists, when you look at biographies, a lot of artists didn't go to any schools, they just did things. It's not because they have creation, godly creation, but it's just because actually in art you can do whatever you like. It's just you need to know what you're doing, and that's basically what those workshops are for, whether they are script writing or anything else. What we're doing is just laying tracks, and then you choose whether to follow it or unfollow it, follow them partly or go completely over them. It's just that those tracks are there so that you know what you're doing. If you're doing something, you need to know where you are in relation to those tracks so you don't screw up unintentionally. Like, it's just, yes, so they're giving out that they're there, but you don't need to follow them. So, to get into the workshop, another notion we need to introduce, because it's going to come back pretty much at the end of all the workshops about script writing, is certainly going to come back. It's the two big schools, quote unquote, of writing. When you're writing a script, at some point you need to start. Like, it's great to have ideas, but at some point you need to write something. And you either start mostly with characters or plot. Like, scriptwriters love to have first high concept plots, others like to write characters first. It doesn't matter which one you choose, because they both have their problems and advantages. If you start with plot, you might end up with empty characters who look like puppets. If you start with characters, you might get stuck because you have those great characters with great backstories, but you won't know what to do with them. And that can be quite difficult. The idea that you gotta start somewhere, plot or characters, knowing where you're starting from. If you're starting with plot, you need to be aware you have to put characters in it. And if you're starting with characters, you have to be well aware that you're gonna make those characters do stuff. That's very easy to say, but not that easy to apply. So, and of course, the perfect script is somewhere in the middle. Then there's the importance of...
Yeah. So I just wanted to mention, like, for when you're writing like something kind of out of your realm, or like maybe you're writing about another culture, or like you're writing a completely new world, or just like something very out of your comfort zone, it's very important to do like research, because nowadays it's very easy to like get things wrong and get canceled very quickly and stuff like that. I think research is very important. Like, if you're, let's say you're American and you want to write a script that's set in Britain, you have to like do good research to like understand how the environment works there and stuff like that. So yeah, I think research is
that makes sense.
Writing a story and your characters, like where they're from and everything, especially when you're not very familiar with your background.
Yeah, it's a question of respect and just be honest sometimes. And of course, like, be free to interrupt us if you have any question and anything to add up. It's supposed to be a discussion.
You guys good, or should we move on?
Yeah, we can move on.
Okay. Okay, so we have one breakout room exercise. So we wanted to like make a group, but I guess we can do it groups.
All together.
We can do it all together, or two groups. Basically, we wanted to put people in groups and have them either choose like a character that they think is great, like not necessarily a main character, or it could be like a villain, it could be any kind of character that they think is great. Or of course, if they did the exercise that you gave us last week. They could share maybe the original character that they came up with, or any character that you've ever written, and just discuss why you think that character is a great character to start with. And we'll keep that character with us like as we go with the rest of the presentation and use them as examples.
Yeah.
So do you guys think we should go into breakout rooms, or just prefer we all like talk?
I think all here is good.
Yeah.
Okay, like we can choose multiple characters, I guess, to make it more interesting.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So anyone have an interesting character they'd like to share, like a character they think is great?
Does
Yeah,
it have to be like already existing, like characters on
as you
movies
like.
It's
or
as you
whatever?
like, yeah.
As you
Whatever
like.
you want.
What's important, it has to be from a movie, and what would be great is that it will be from a movie which everyone has seen, so that everyone can talk about this character. But if it's an original one, that's the best. Like if you've written a character recently and don't know what to do with it, that's the time to bring it up.
Yeah, like feel free to like introduce your character and tell us why you think the character is great and why you think it's a character that's worth telling a story about and stuff
Because
like that.
without to quote unquote spoil anything, we're gonna talk about this character's relation to story. So if you haven't written any story yet about this character, it's gonna be great to kind of try to elaborate and see where we can bring him or her.
Because we have like another exercise afterwards where we'll use the characters that we chose now, and we'll use them for the other exercise as well.
So, does anyone want to start with a character he either written or he liked in the movie?
Wolverine.
Well, maybe we can start writing them.
Oh yeah. So
Wolverine in which movie? Because that's a character from a comic book. But let's keep in mind that we are talking about script writing and movies. From which movie?
Any of his movies? Like, what do you mean?
I mean,
Speed
because
specifically, the character tracks throughout the movies, but what do you mean? Like from
what I mean is from a specific. I mean from a specific movie, because I'm going to talk about it right after we have this discussion. When you write it for screen for a movie, it's very different than writing for any kind of other media. So it will be better if you have one of the specific X-Men movie to talk about the place of Wolverine into that movie. What's his evolution and how is it presented to us? You know, for instance, Wolverine, he's really interesting character. Like in his last movie in Logan, I think he was like just the actor and the movie in general. He was great because there's really this idea of, and I don't know.
Yeah, I love that movie. That's
Logan
my favorite
was
Wolverine
amazing.
movie. Yeah.
Okay. And everyone have seen Logan? Maybe you can start with that.
Yeah,
The
Logan.
same director as like Queen's Gambit, I think. It's like from the same screenwriter.
oh, is it?
Yeah.
So what about Wolverine that you like,
So,
or
what
I
about
guess,
Wolverine in Logan? What do you like about him?
or why do you think
Let's-
that he's a great character?
Yeah. Like anyone, not just Christian who just opinion, but for the people, normally everybody saw Logan here. So does anyone have something to say about this character?
familiarity. It's familiar.
Okay. What about his stays throughout the movie?
Like the way he chooses to protect the new mutant, and also Charles Xavier, both old and new, young.
Yeah. And the choice that he makes throughout the movie, are pretty like hard choices.
Yeah. Also, I think he has weakness. That's like something that makes him more relatable to other audience, I feel. Yeah, if he is just like a Superman, I guess it will be not very, very relatable to all the audience with all his habits of drinking and also like tiredness and being old. When the world is about to end, I guess, like at the moment. I don't know. Yeah, something like that. But yeah, his weakness, I'm saying.
Yeah, and what adds to his weakness is that he's sick, right? He's dying.
Yeah, he's getting old actually. Wolverine. He seems like doesn't get old at all.
I feel
And
like
that's really
the
interesting
fact,
with an immortal character,
I feel like the fact that they're sick or like just in pain or just have a struggle makes them very empathetic to the audience.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah.
For sure.
Yeah,
More relatable.
relatable. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also like one of the things that really touched me like in Logan was just like he was really caring for Professor X.
Yeah.
And that makes him more like because always Logan is like appears to be very strong and very brave and all that, but at the moment he was also like a child for Professor X, like taking care of his father sort of. They're more like a father and son relationship like in the movie, I feel. Yeah, so that kind of a relationship with other characters makes him also show more of him, like when he was interacting with Professor X, I feel.
Yeah. Okay, if we're done with Wolverine, does anyone has another character? Let's, like I said with Wolverine, let's focus on movies and how characters are presented to us in movies. Does anyone has another character to propose?
Well, if we keep with comic books,
Why
or
not?
comic books based films,
Mhm.
we can think about Thanos.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I was
Talked
waiting for
about-
that one.
We talked
Thanos.
about Thanos when preparing the workshop.
Yeah. We were waiting for Thanos or the Joker, one of them. Okay, so what makes Thanos so great to you? I'm talking to everyone, so I don't know if you is the correct word. Like the fact that he's a relatable bad guy, just that he's technically the antagonist of the story, but I mean, technically speaking, he's what we can call an antagonist, but he has some relatable things. So there's this odd moral compass that the audience is put into.
Yeah,
Okay.
they create some sort of empathy between him and the audience. It has a goal that we can understand. We might not, agree with it because it's pretty radical, but we can understand why he would think that based on his backstory.
Yeah, it's like his motivations and goals don't really they're not rational. Like we don't agree with them, but it doesn't mean like they don't make sense. So I think that's what makes him a really good, I guess, villain or character. Like what he's doing, like there's motivation behind it, and I feel like that makes it more like believable to the
Motivation.
audience.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and as I said, like that we're waiting for Joker. I mean, if we compare with Joker, Joker has his own film, right? It's his film. But Thanos, he attracts all the attention and the empathy on a film that it's not technically his. We have like 20 heroes, and he's the focal point. So that's even more, admirable, I think, from the script.
I would say Heath Ledger's Joker would be more outstanding than the newer one.
You mean Heath Ledger's Joker?
In The Dark Knight?
Yeah. Actually, I prefer that one too. Yeah.
I mean, we can add this one up, like Joker, and precise that it's the Dark Knight one, like this version.
Yeah. Why do you guys prefer that Joker? Like, is there a specific reason, or is it just like he's more appealing?
Oh, I think first of all, it's like a personal preference. So it's
but why? Still trying to explain why.
It's the crazy. The crazy adds a bit to it.
Yeah, I think the second Joker is I don't know.
he's still new. Like he's just starting. What he's still turning out to be like that mad person. He's on its way
Yeah,
to
just
become a
starting. Yeah,
just starting.
yeah.
Yeah, but this weird thing. Can you still Mira add him to this, please? Yes, thank you. Just also this something really interesting with the Dark Knight Joker is that he doesn't have any backstory. We don't know anything about him. Like literally, in a literal sense, nothing is said about him. Like about his backstory. If you look at, I'm sure if you look up at his, if you try to make a character list of him, you're just gonna write like a few words. But
Yeah.
but that's what makes him so great, actually, because he's this kind of incarnation of chaos. He doesn't need a backstory because if he had one, it would mean diminishing him. It would make him too human.
Yeah.
So
It's
I'm gonna
like a
assume
keyword.
that no one likes Jared Leto's Joker.
No, I think a lot of people like it.
Oh, really?
The writing was bad, but I think he can be a good Joker.
Mm.
Oh,
'Cause,
Jared
like,
Leto. Sorry.
Jared
Yeah.
Leto.
I thought you meant like the new one. Sorry.
No, no, yeah.
Yeah, Jared Leto. Okay, sorry.
Because I read a lot of
Yeah.
criticism about Jared Leto.
Sorry, Jared Leto. Yeah.
I mean, like he has so. I mean, I've seen the movie we're talking about. Like, he just have like 3 scenes. To me, it's not enough.
Yeah.
To really talk about him.
Yeah.
Like he's so absent of this movie.
Yeah, I think
But
what. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Yeah, because I suddenly started to think more about the Dark Knight Joker. It's just like this guy, he's just totally chaotic. He looks totally, like has no plan, but actually every step he does is like so calculated and
Yeah,
so
that's what's
it's
interesting,
like,
that he
yeah.
may have this plan, but he also have a lot of luck if you look closely about it. Like there's this scene when he asks Harvey Dent to put a gun to his face, and he literally leaves the gun, like it has bullets. He could die at this moment, but he decided to leave it to chance.
I also watched like some kind of a commentary on this, and like the commentator, I think he says like basically Joker doesn't really care if he dies at a moment or not. He just like wants to prove but basically prove that like Harvey Dent can also just fall, or I think his own purpose is just to create chaos. That's like basically it. He doesn't really care he himself. So yeah. But that's like great. What is great about this character, I also feel. Yeah, continue.
If we get out of comic books, like out of comic books characters, do we have any?
How about Tyrion Lannister or Littlefinger?
Who?
Tyrion Lannister or Littlefinger from Game
Oh,
of Thrones?
Tyrion Lannister.
Oh, okay, thank you. Sorry, I heard badly. So, yeah, the thing about Tyrion Lannister, let's just precise that he's from a TV show, and we're gonna talk about that a little bit too. What do people like about Tyrion Lannister here?
He's ugly. It is written like he's very ugly, but the main power of his is its knowledge and the way he keeps thinking every step, and that strategies that he has every time. At the starting, we think that he's an evil character, but then later he turns out to be a really good character.
I think also what makes like Tyrion interesting as well, that like he's surrounded by so many like immoral people that it kind of puts him like makes him look, I don't know, better, but like because like he has his sister and his brother who aren't exactly the nicest people, and then like the king at the beginning and stuff, but then he has like, he's always like in contrast to them, he just looks like a way better person, so he seems, I guess, more relatable to the audience.
Yeah, with a contrast with other characters. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think do you guys want to move on, or does anyone want to add
I just wanted to comment that it's interesting because we have no like heroes on our list.
Oh, we still have Wolverine.
Wolverine,
But he's more of an anti.
Oh,
He's more of
come
an
on.
anti-hero, you know. I mean
Yeah.
that we don't have like
Harry Potter.
yeah, exactly. Like
Batman or
strictly
Superman.
good characters, you know.
Katniss Everdeen.
Like we all
Yeah,
like
yeah. Well, yeah.
like crooked personalities.
Yes.
I mean, especially the Joker from Dark Knight. I was waiting for the Joker from the recent movie. I was expecting this one. Anyway. So, if no one has anything to add up, we can maybe move on to the next step. So it's quite interesting that we have so many comic book characters and one who is from a TV show, because we gotta stick to something. We got to remember something. We're writing for screen and for movies. Okay, a TV show is 10 hours of program at least. It can be a short one, of course, Queen's Gambit, but in general, in 10 hours. A book is you can move up to 1,000 page or more, or more. And of course, a comic book, you just have this character who exists, who has tons of stories. For a movie, you have something like 2 hours. You cannot go too far beyond because it's going to be too long, and your producers are going to ask you to cut. And if you go too low, it might not be considered as a theater-length movie, won't be distributed. And of course, us in CFS, we are about to make short stories, which are going to last only 5 minutes. It doesn't mean that movies are simpler. It just means that it's a different way to tell a story. And movies has this characteristic to have a certain perspective.
Yeah.
You have to choose an angle. You cannot say, oh, I'm going to make a movie about life itself. You cannot go Tolkien style and say and try to develop actually every brush characters walk by. Or you cannot do like comic books writers do is just taking a character everyone already know and then just put them into a story without any introduction. This is why when we talk about Wolverine, I kind of insisted on Logan, because Wolverine is very different from one movie to another. If you take the very first X-Men movie, I don't know if anyone's seen it, but in the opening scene of that movie, not the really opening, but in Wolverine's first scene of X-Men, he's very different from Logan. He's just a beast, and he's like very violent, but not in the same way as Logan. He's very violent, but he's in his pride age. He like completely destroys the guy, not out of defense, but out of a show. He's just fighting in a bar. So this is why when you're writing a story and you're writing your characters for a movie script, you have to think about a perspective. Are we into an objective perspective, which means your camera is going to jump around from characters from point of view to point of view, which means you will have less to say? Or is it going to be a little more subjective, and are you going to focus on only one or two or maybe three if you're really good characters? But you really have to be aware that your movie is going to have a specific angle, and it will never be as wide as you want to. That's basically it. Like when you look at Thanos, yes, it's great. He's great, but without the 15 movies, at least 15, I don't remember, I mean something like 20, behind Infinity War, like you don't know anything about the heroes he's confronted to. So you have to be aware that you're going to choose an angle. And this angle is going to pretty much define everything for your characters. He's going to define who is the protagonist. Like Joker is a very good example. If you see the Joker in the Dark Knight is the antagonist because you don't follow his point of view, he's just the enemy. He's just the opposite to the protagonist, which is Batman. It's a Batman movie. But if you just shift the perspective, then you have Todd Phillips' last year's Joker movie, in which the Joker becomes the protagonist and the antagonist becomes what's his called, the Robert De Niro character, the presentator. Like, you could say he's the antagonist of this movie because he's really the guy with Thomas Wayne. They are both guys really opposite to Joker.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's gonna define your character role, whether just talk with his protagonist, antagonist, the two oppositions throughout the movie. Most movies are about oppositions, and most of the time, those oppositions are encountered through characters. They don't have to. It can be character against society. If everyone saw Brazil from the Monty Python, I don't remember his name. Anyway, Terry Gilliam, that's it. It's just this character engaged the whole society, so the antagonist, in a way, is not a character, it's more a symbolic thing. And then beneath protagonist and antagonist, I just took those two categories because they are the two more important, which is deuteragonist and tertiary characters. Deuteragonist, basically, they're the secondaries which accompany the main characters, the protagonist and antagonist. There are the love interest, the confidant, like the main character's best friend. The foil. The foil is a bit like, it's the idea of this character being opposite to your main character without being the antagonist. Like, you could say it's Malfoy in Harry Potter. It's just like you're gonna create this mirror who won't be in the center of the movie, but still be there to say, for instance, can be an example of how your character could go, but he's not gonna choose that because he's the quote-unquote hero. And really, you have to think also about, character quality, because your perspective and angle is gonna change that too. If your character is tertiary characters are really all that's beneath the protagonist. They are characters who are there for like one or two scenes, maybe a little more, maybe 3 or 4, but they are really like side characters. The quality is simply, how to put it, that's good. What the dynamic of your character. Like, if it's the main character, it has to be a little bit changing throughout the story. Like, there has been a lot of stories about non-changing characters, but most of the time they change simply because it's not appealing to follow a character who's just stick to his point of view, unless your movie wants to make a point about that. For instance, Scarface is all about a character sticking to his position and making all the wrong choices, but that's the whole idea, because it's supposed to be a critique of these characters' behavior.
And can I add something?
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, maybe like an example of a popular static character, like a character that doesn't change, is Katniss from the Hunger Games. Like, for most of the time, it's her throughout the entire films, just like sticking to her own, like, I guess, her own beliefs and going against the society or like a situation that's changing. So like, she's really like very stubborn throughout the entire film, the entire time. She does not very like, of course she goes through different like situations that like show her character more, but I feel like her core beliefs and her core like values always like stayed the same from the beginning till the end. Like, she was always against the Capitol at the beginning and she was still against the Capitol at the end. So yeah, that's
maybe, but that's why we made yourself, you're going to talk about it, Mihira, afterwards. She's still changing. This is why this workshop is about characters. Katniss Everdeen, yes, she's still against the Capitol, but she changes a lot. At the beginning, when she decided to go to the Hunger Games, she's motivated by saving her sister. And that thing throughout the saga is gonna shift and change. So when we're talking about changing characters and dynamic characters, it's not about complete change. It can be, like, you can make a story about a character who is going to be like, he's going to flip a coin. Like, you can make Harvey Dent, who's going to completely change from one side to another. But actually, in most movies, characters still have a clear line because they still need to be coherent. Of course, your character cannot just start shooting people just because he lost his family. He can do it, but he needs a 1 hour and a half film. It's not gonna be from one scene to another. So there's still this idea that your character needs to evolve a little bit. Like for Katniss, there's really this idea of this character. At the core, she's just motivated by personal values and wanting to save just the people she likes. But throughout, with her, what to put, she'll have to understand that to save the people she loves, she have to fight the capital, and that's a shift. That's still a change because she could be very passive, just enjoying her life with the loved ones she has, but she becomes active throughout the movies. And of course, beneath dynamic characters who are the most important, your main characters who are at the core of your movie, there is other subtleties, like of course unchanging characters mostly are really the characters on the side, which are unimportant. They're just there for a specific reason to do that, or they need to explain something.
Yeah.
And there's this idea of symbolic characters. Symbolism, using symbolic can be very tricky in movies because there's always this conflict between concrete things and symbolic ones. You can serve a symbol you can modify concrete things to serve a symbol. Like, let's say Deus Ex Machina. Like, we're way out of characters, but the idea of Deus Ex Machina, we all love to laugh at it, but they're here to give us ideas most of the time. Where the reason why they are here is because there's an idea, there's a symbol to make.
Sorry, what ID you're referring to? Like in Ex Machina?
Yeah, I was talking about using symbols to define your characters and story. A Deus Ex Machina is when you have something just happening like that for no reason at all. It's really like God hands acting on its own.
You mean, for example, like finally the female robot like stabbed like the guy or something like that, or
like for instance, at the end of War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise, and it's like basically an alien invasion movies. At the end, the alien just dies, like that. Yeah. They just dies. They just die because they cannot breathe into Earth's atmosphere. That's the Deus Ex Machina because it just happens out of the blue, but it's there for a reason. Like the idea, it's a long reason. I'm not gonna take the whole workshop to explain it. I'm sorry. But like the idea with symbols, you can do that for your characters too. You can make, like I said, for Scarface, it's really a dumb character, sometimes too dumb. Like really, he makes really bad choices, but it's to serve an idea. And you have to be careful with that because sometimes the audience is not going to understand it. And so you have to make it understand that it's for a specific reason that you're making this choice. I know this idea with symbols is very blurry, but remember that's not the most important in script writing. This is the last stages. But okay, does anyone has any question about? I know I can talk very fast when I'm stressed. So does anyone has any question about what I just talked about?
Yeah, did you mention character like it's stock like as a quality? Sorry, I don't know if you mentioned it.
I haven't talked about stock and wound characters.
Oh, okay.
Because they are really basic, like wound characters. Actually, I don't remember what wound. Oh fuck! I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly what wound characters exactly means. I forgot to run into that.
No problem. Yeah.
But like stock characters are just it concerns mainly like it comes with static and unchanging. It comes with those characters who, since they aren't going to be on the front line of your story, they aren't going to have to change a lot, and they aren't going to have to change a lot. They're going to be like just characters you use for a specific reason.
So you mean like static characters are more like characters who helps the story to move or plot to move?
Yeah, but there's, how to put it, with a good script, when you watch a movie, you don't see that. When you write a character, you still have to put a little bit of life in it, because if you don't do that, you end up with the problem I just mentioned with when you just write a plot and then put characters in it. They're just gonna look like puppets who act for your story.
Yeah.
So it's just the point of this whole part I'm saying is just to say that you must be aware that you might write everything you want on your characters. It's not gonna transpire. It's not gonna be. You're not gonna see it all, and that's the trick with script writing and writing for screen. Is to make choices and to be well aware of the choices you make. For instance, you're gonna write a character. You're gonna write a whole pages on this character, but this character is gonna have only 5 scenes. And so when you come to concrete script writing, when you start to write your scenes, then you're gonna have to make the choice of which part of the 100 pages you wrote are you gonna show in the final script.
Yeah.
That's it. And you decide, and the way you can decide that is mainly by choosing the perspective. Like if you're following the subjective perspective on only one character, you're not gonna show the whole life of the neighbor, because the neighbor is secondary. The neighbor just have one scene when he waves his hand to say hello. So of course, for just methods, and if it comforts you, you can write hundreds and hundreds of pages and develop a whole universe. But you still have to be aware that just one side, just a few sides are going to be in the movie. That's the most important thing I would say.
I'll add something to... stock is basically like a stock character is kind of, if you think of, archetypes, so like the hero, the villain, the fool, the child. It's kind of similar to that. So it's like an unchanging character that has an archetype and is just there to like forward the story. And the round character is more like is similar to a dynamic character, but is more like complex than a dynamic character, like has a whole backstory and stuff like that. Like
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for being wrong about those two.
No, it's fine. I learned this in high school.
But sense. They are really like vague terms. You don't have to stick to them. Like it's like 2 weeks ago when we talked about the story circle, and this is why I'm just talking about it without sticking to the script. Without sticking to the script. Those are notions you just have to be a bit aware of.
Yeah, exactly.
And so moving on. For instance, let's go back to our list of characters. The characters we chose.
Sorry.
Like Wolverine. Let's talk a bit about Wolverine. Does anyone have seen more than Logan in the X-Men movies?
Yeah.
Like, does everyone have seen at least, let's say, Logan and X-Men 1, for instance?
Yeah.
Okay. Logan, just talk about perspective-wise. What can we say about him? Like Wolverine in Logan, who is it? Like, if you go back to the list, protagonist, antagonist, data is tertiary.
He's a protagonist.
Yeah, clearly. Like the whole idea of Logan is following Logan's point of view, and I think in Logan there's only 1, maybe 2 scenes without him.
Oh, really?
And that's about it. Yeah, when you look at it closely, I don't remember. It all concerns only him, and when you look at the other characters in Logan, they all are just defined through their relationship to him.
Yeah.
And that's when, I don't know what was the method on writing Logan, but that's something they considered at some point, because that's the movie we get at the end. And so there's a clear choice in Logan about focusing on Wolverine. We're gonna follow his perspective, and there's even any flashbacks when you think about it. The whole movie, temporally speaking, is just going forward from beginning to the end, because in life there aren't any flashbacks, so we focus on the Wolverine we have now, which is very different to the other Wolverine we have in any other X-Men film that someone can mention. Like, does anyone has an X-Men film with Wolverine, for instance?
Sorry?
I was asking to everyone, just can anyone talk about Wolverine as he is in any other X-Men films other than Logan? Like, if for anyone who have saw the X-Men films. Nobody?
I haven't watched the X-Men film, so I can't really answer.
If nobody has did it, I can. Like, in the first X-Men, Wolverine is just a antagonist. He's just a secondary character. The movie is much more focused on the character of Rogue, a girl who has the power to like absorb your life, literally speaking, when she touches you. And Wolverine is mainly like defined through his relationship to her.
Yeah.
He's not too secondary. He still has a lot of screen time, and he's still very active in the movie, but it's not central. It's not really a movie about him. Like the first X-Men, the perspective is much more objective. We're jumping out from one character to another, with the character of Rogue, this girl that Wolverine's gonna protect mostly, and you can draw power with Logan and why he's gonna protect mostly for the movie. It's much more focused on her, and our relationship then with Wolverine becomes different because there is an evolution. Logan, his first scene, he's like probably drunk, and he's fighting a bunch of guys who are harming his car in Logan.
Yeah.
And then you see him in his bathroom, completely in pain, getting out bullets from his shoulder. That's his first scene. So you have clearly the idea of character in pain, and that's what makes him relatable, as Mira is going to talk about it later. But in the first X-Men movie, like I said, we see in this first scene, he's in a bar fight and he's really a beast. He like completely destroys someone. It's not graphic, but there's really this idea of the character being violent and almost a little bit repulsive. It's still a Hugh Jackman, but there's this idea of much more bestial character and less vulnerable. And you see his vulnerability throughout the movie. So there's your relationship to him completely changes over the way from which perspective you're looking at him. And then there's Thanos, who obviously is an antagonist, but he's an antagonist who takes most of the screen time. So he's being in the middle between antagonist and protagonist. Yeah. And it creates all the moral ambiguity you have with him we talked about earlier, because he's an antagonist, but you follow him, you understand him like a protagonist.
What do you think is sorry? Like,
no, go ahead.
Just what do you think is like changing, like in Thanos, like through these two movies?
I would love to talk about it, but I haven't seen Endgame, so I'm just focusing on Infinity War. But please do. If anyone has something to say about how Thanos is in the Endgame, please do. And that was a question, so that was an invitation. And Mira.
Okay, I could talk about it. Yeah, I think Thanos is a pretty unchanging character. Like, even if like throughout the whole like Marvel like films and universes, he just shows up and he's already like he has very strong values like from the beginning, and he doesn't like his goal and motivations from the beginning like remain the same, which is to obliterate half of the humanity and like everything alive. So I think throughout his entire story arc, he's very like unchanging, but still doesn't make him less interesting than he is.
Oh, that's interesting, because I thought like most like interesting characters are those changing ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, like but right here, like Thanos actually gives like a counter example that it's still very interesting. Yeah. Yeah, that's something that worth like going into like for research or something, I guess. Yeah.
So like don't think that like if your character is unchanging it's not interesting. Like you can find ways to make it interesting.
Just like depends on probably it just depends on what you want to say with your movie, mostly for your quality. But when it comes to like types of character, like I said, protagonist, antagonist, tertiary, like you still have to like be sure that your protagonist is gonna have a lot of screen time just for that, of course.
If I can add on that, like there are characters that change through the story, and there are characters that change the world around them. Like you can think better at this with lots of animes, especially like shonen, with Naruto, One Piece. Naruto is a character that he doesn't change much throughout the story. He always knew that he wanted to be the Hokage and make the the Leaf Village. Is that it?
Yeah, the Leaf Village. Yeah.
A better place.
Yeah.
So he changed those around him, and Thanos is basically the same thing. He changes the world around him, right? He kills half of the universe.
Yeah.
But for in a bad way.
Yeah.
And also he forced like so many the heroes changed, like their whole character and their surroundings and their loved ones, they all changed. But actually he's a great helper to see other people changing. Yeah.
I have one question regarding one more character that I just remembered. How about Severus Snape? Like, he is changing, right? Or dynamic or static?
I think he's a very dynamic character. He's very like
He's the perfect for round.
No, he doesn't change. He changes for us because we don't know anything about him right at the beginning.
Yeah, I would put him.
I think it's our perspective that changed and not his
exactly.
character.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's it. For instance, like there's the character you still have. This is why this notion of perspective. I'm still bothering you with that. Is so important because there are those cases in which it's not your character that changes, it's your perspective about him. And this is why you have to choose an angle and not think, oh, I'm gonna just dump it all at the beginning.
Yeah, on characters changing, since anime was mentioned, what can be interesting, well, if you look at Luffy from One Piece, he doesn't change throughout the whole thing. You never see him waver in anything, and the whole series is more about how he changes the world than how the world changes him. That's a whole other way to write it, which I really like.
Exactly. I think that's the biggest difference between dynamic and like static. So it's just it depends like how the narrative is being unfolded. Like is the situation changing him or is he changing the situation?
Yeah. And in a lot of cases, it's both things at the same time.
Yeah, like Walter White, for example, I have to mention this again, changing the situation around him, and also the situation changes him. So it's like happening at the same time. So
yeah, that's you might say the classic way of writing is doing that. It's doing both because characters changing always look. I know we have the idea of Thanos, which is kind of pathetic, but most of the case, a character changing is more empathetic than a character not unchanging, simply because people change, and most of the time audience can relate to someone who is changing than to someone who is sticking to his values. But that's a very subtle idea, because it changes, because love, of course, every time you say a rule, you have thousands of movies showing you how it doesn't work. So, of course, but yeah, still.
Should we move on to the
yeah, we
section?
can move on to
Yeah.
the next.
Does anyone want to add
turn.
anything? No? Good. Okay. So this is kind of related to what we were talking about anyways, about character types, but like more of the character and the story relationship. So how like we can introduce conflicts and how that affects characters. So I'm sure everyone knows about internal and external conflict. We've all taken it in high school. So you have an internal conflict is more like an internal battle with yourself. So I guess character versus self. And an external conflict is any like conflict that is, I guess, a character or any kind of force versus another kind of force. So you have character versus nature, character versus character, and character versus society. So like an example of character versus society would be like a lot of dystopian movies. So again, Hunger Games, you have its Katniss versus the society that she lives in, or you have Divergent, you have the main character, I forgot her name. She's kind of goes against the society, and yeah, so I wanted to talk about like the importance of like bringing in conflict for your character and how that affects your character. So I think bringing in conflicts like shows really the truths about like what your character is like. So for example, if you have this a situation where there was an accidental like murder, what would your character do? Would your character hide the body, or would your character like go and report it to the police? So I think introducing conflicts is a very interesting way to show like your character's values, your character's motivation, and just I guess their true colors. It's important also to keep like conflicts in moderation. So like always like just barging in conflict or problem after problem, that it's not going to really make sense. So like any conflict that you introduce to your character, it's important to like for it to have a reason and like a purpose. Like, is your character like facing his fears? Is your like, what is it like changing for your character? Like we always have to keep that in mind when writing the central conflict of the story and just how it's going to affect your character. So it's also
Sorry. No, go ahead. I'll add up afterwards.
Yeah.
It's just like mostly internal and external conflicts are linked. Like Katniss Everdeen in Hunger Games, you have this external conflict fighting the government, but you have also this internal conflict, which is choosing between like being self-centered, like just saving herself with the people she loves, or being altruist, or being an altruist and fight and just give it all to the movement. And you have a correspondence between the two conflicts, and it's usually to like Mira's gonna develop it when talking about character and audience relationship. But again, when you want your story to be appealing, like most of the time, making something work between internal and external works. Like in Logan, you have the creeping character, this old character near the end. For it's not by chance that he finds himself in this situation in which all the mutants are dead, he's in the desert, and everything is just crumbling around him because he is crumbling inside. So
yeah, exactly. Like to add to that, it's basically like the mixture and the interplay of internal and external conflict like adds more complexity to your character, because in the end you have like any kind of external conflict kind of like affects the inner conflict happening within, and the inner conflict affects how they act in the face of an external conflict. So all of it like interplays together, like and creates the character that's not one-dimensional. So
Yeah.
Anyone
I think,
want to add anything?
yeah, if I can add one like example, maybe. For example, I think like Dark Knight, in the Dark Knight, like Batman has like a very clear like internal and external conflict. It's just like externally, he is gonna face like Joker all the time, and he's gonna handle all these problems made by him. But internally, he is also like choosing like his loved ones or Gotham City, basically like Harvey Dent, right? Like Rachel or Harvey Dent, or Rachel or Gotham, or Batman or Joker, basically. Like he can choose like to finally like give up like his Batman like identity by saying, oh, I killed all those people, and also like finally or just like instead saving the Gotham by pushing Harvey Dent as like the perfect person per se. That's just like I think, I don't know if it's correct example to
it's
add on.
The Dark Knight is a great example for what you just said. And if you look closely at the Dark Knight, well, when you start looking at the other characters, you just notice that most of them are a lot more simpler, because they're mostly here to support Batman's journey. And that's when you enter the realm of movies. Like the Joker, he doesn't have anything, basically. He's just there to opposite Dark Knight, Dark Knight, which is great. It's not bad writing, but it's there mainly because it's a movie, and Christopher Nolan wanted a special effect that the Joker would create. Just like all this. So what we can do is, we have the relationship between Batman and the audience in the movie. You just resumed it very well, Max. What we could say about the relationship between the Joker and the story in the movie? What could we say about it? What's our relationship to him?
His conflicts, like his
not his conflicts, but like how is he depicted to us? What's our relationship as an audience to the Joker, and what's his relationship to the story? Like, he doesn't have any internal conflicts as far as we know, but there is an external one. Like, if you just think about it. It's the same as Batman, it's chaos versus order. Like, he's there to represent anarchy and chaos, and he's against all Gotham and mostly Batman to prove that chaos can win. And they, on purpose, wrote a character without any origin or any background or any subtlety to be this incarnation of chaos and anarchy. And it creates kind of a creeping relationship to the audience, because we start to fear him. We don't know anything about him, and that's what's scary. That's uncertainness about him. And so and if it was a book, a comic book, you could be sure they will give him an origin story, because they will have much more time, and they did. It's called The Killing Joke.
Yeah, I know the comic. Yeah,
it's comic book story into which it's pretty much the same Joker. The difference is that he has an origin story, and it's not better. It's not either better or less good, but it's a different way to see things and to approach the stories and characters.
If you guys want another example of internal external conflict kind of like mushed together in a story, you have Lord of the Rings, have Frodo's external conflict, which is basically an example of character versus fate, so like Frodo versus his destiny. And but also you have throughout the film, Frodo is always like has this internal battle with like what is the word? Resisting the power of the ring. So it's kind of like a mix of both, and how like that internal struggle adds to like the obstacle that he's facing, which is his destiny in the end, fulfilling his destiny. And that. So that's another example of
Yeah,
internal and external conflict kind of mushing together and making a character more complex.
exactly. And also, like, he's later on, he was facing the conflict with, I think it's with Sam, right? The other character, and also Gollum. I think at the moment, he met lots of like conflicts in whether to, I don't know if it's him or Sam, but yeah, like whether to forsake Gollum or not, and this kind of also, yeah.
So it's
That's
like
definitely
just
right.
yeah, it's just important to note, like when you're writing, that make sure that every obstacle and conflict has a reason behind it, and at least kind of furthers the plot or furthers your character in some way, because then it's just going to be useless fighting for no reason. So
Yeah, I totally agree.
So we can talk about character motivations as well. We've mentioned it before and how it kind of creates more, like I guess, sympathy, or not sympathy, but like makes your character more believable, because you have these motivations that drive the character forward. It makes the character more relatable to us, even if those are motivations we don't necessarily agree with. So I think that's an important part to like the character and story relationship, as well as the character and audience relationship. So if a character seems to have like goals that are backed up by proper motivations, the character will feel more believable than just a character that's evil for the sake of being evil, or just a hero because everyone is telling him be a hero. There isn't like any underlying motivations. It won't really like be believable to the audience. So another thing I want to add about character and audience relationship: when you're writing your characters, it's important to know how you want them to be perceived by the audience. So for example, if you're writing a character and you don't want it to be likable, you have to make sure that plays through to your audience. Like that's always important to note. If you want your character to be like empathetic, maybe put them in situations that you think would make it more relatable to your audience. And that's always important to note when you're writing your characters and the story that they're going to be a part of.
For instance, in Lord of the Rings, you have this whole David and Goliath situation with those hobbits who are technically they are the weakest creature in Tolkien's realm, but they are the ones who have to take that bloody ring to a volcano.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and it's very relatable because we all felt like that at some point of our personal history. So that's a very good example. That this feeling of feeling small, or of being small, in front of something too big for us.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's mostly it. Does anyone want to add anything?
Something?
Yep.
Just another example of subtlety we might have forgot.
Yeah, we're not professionals.
That's great. Wow.
We can move on. We have another exercise that we could do.
Yeah, which is pretty nice.
So it was another breakout room exercise, but I guess we could all do it together since we have multiple scenarios. So the idea was that we use the characters we chose before, or we don't have to stick to them. Like we can choose any character, and like put them in a scenario or a specific situation and see how that specific character would act in that situation, or how they would answer the problem. So for example, we have the first scenario, which is the trolley problem. I'm gonna read it. There's a runaway trolley barreling down the railway tracks. Ahead on the tracks, there are 5 people tied up and unable to move. The trolley is headed straight for them. You're standing some distance off in the train yard next to the lever. If you pull this lever, the trolley will switch to a different set of tracks. However, if you notice that there is one person on that side of the track, you have 2 options. Do nothing and allow the trolley to kill the 5 people on the main track. Pull the lever, diverting the trolley onto the side track where it will kill 1 person. So I thought it'd be...
What would your character do? That's basically the question you have to ask yourselves.
It's really a way to get in the head of certain characters and understand like what they would do in a situation.
And actually you can sometimes, we're gonna jump out to the other scenarios. It can sometimes give you the keys to a good movie, because a lot of movies are based on what if scenarios like that. For instance, does anyone remembers or have seen Shape of Water from Guillermo del Toro? It won a couple of Oscars a
Never
couple of
watched
years ago. But you've seen like at least a wallpaper or trailer.
Yeah. That's right.
The story of Shape of Water by Guillermo del Toro is about this mute woman falling in love with a fish person, basically. It's with this kind of monster, which is a hybrid between a man and a fish. Actually, this movie is entirely based on the what-if scenarios. The thing is, Guillermo del Toro is a big fan of monster movies, and in the 50s, there is this movie called The Creature of the Black Lagoon, which is about a fish guy, basically the same visual as Shape of Water, a hybrid human and fish, who is monstrous and kidnaps a girl, and the idea of the movie is kind of a bit of cheap horror movie into which the heroes has to save the girl from the monster. And Guillermo del Toro just thought that he liked this monster and just thought, I'm going to make a movie about a love story between those two characters. And I'm going to make a love story between the monster and the girl, and it's not going to be about the monster kidnapping her. So just to say that sometimes from what ifs like that, you can really create entire stories in movies. It just goes beyond a simple exercise.
So what character do you guys want to do for this scenario?
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Like, what would the Joker choose if he was in the situation?
Like Joker from the
Joker 5 people and then kill the other one.
Exactly. You see, so like every character would act. So what would Wolverine do? Let's choose someone with a bit more morals.
Yeah, Wolverine, the old one from Logan. What would he do? Like, when you think about it.
He drinks and he doesn't care, I guess.
Yeah, he'd be too tired to do anything about it.
Yeah.
Really? So he would just, so I guess he would just leave the trolley to kill the 5 people?
Exactly. He wouldn't change anything. He'd just watch it happen.
Oh, come on. He's better than that. I mean, to me, he will
not really.
I mean, probably to me, he will try to save everyone, but will fail because he's a character who failed a lot.
So you think he? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
To me, he will try. I don't know, to stop the trolley to save everyone, but he will run over him because.
But yeah, what I would have said is the old Logan would just watch it happen while drinking. The young Logan from the X-Men movies would probably just slash the trolley.
He would jump in front of it.
Jump down and then like screw this like car.
He'd just stop it instead of changing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have more.
We're not going to talk about Thanos in that situation because that's too easy.
He would kill half of the people.
I think Thanos' point is, well, it's easy, but it's very interesting. He would definitely go for killing the one person.
Yeah, probably. Because
you think so? How come?
Oh yeah, of course he will do that. Because he's a calculator. He just calculates what are the best chance to save the most people.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's
well,
or he wants to save more people, so going for he'd totally go for saving the one person.
Or he would kill 5 people because of resources.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you put just Thanos in that situation specifically without the whole food problem, just Thanos' character.
Yeah.
No,
he will
I agree with you.
Definitely make the calculus and think, okay, there's 5 people. I'm gonna save the 5 because it's just hold on.
Okay, so next scenario.
We can add some more characters if you guys want. This is fun.
So
go ahead.
Red pill or blue pill. So your character is given the choice of so to swallow the red pill and follow the white rabbit, which means, sorry, my camera is covering which means learning what the matrix is, break out from it, and discovering a world which maybe don't need to be discovered, but can also free him or her. To swallow the blue pill and simply stay in his or her current comfortable life. Which pill does your character choose? What are the potential consequences from choosing one pill or the other? Is there a third option for your character?
Like, for those who don't remember at all from the Matrix, taking the blue pill means going into a post-apocalyptic world, fighting to the death big machines.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty big choice. So he has a choice between doing
But
that.
do we consider the choice from the point of view of knowing exactly what they're going to discover after taking the red pill, or from Neo's point of view where he didn't know exactly what it would bring him?
As you like, it's your story, basically. That's the point of the exercise. Like let's begin with the point of view of Neo. Like, you don't know that he's going to take you to the post-apocalyptic world and fighting machines, but what you do know is that he's going to completely change your life.
Yeah.
And get you out of your world. So, if we take, I don't know, it might be a bit complex, but Tyrion Lannister, I think, would be an interesting character to put in that situation. Because
Well, he'd take the red pill.
Really? I mean, he's still pretty comfortable, like, as a noble. Like,
he is comfortable, but he hates his family. He hates his life. He always wanted to change everything. That's why he went to serve Daenerys.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he'd take the red pill.
Yeah, that'll be.
Can you guys think of a character that would choose the blue pill?
Wolverine.
Yeah,
He'd either take the blue one or none of them. He'd just walk away.
I haven't watched The Matrix. Is it an option to take both pills?
No.
Oh, okay.
I think
probably you die first.
Yeah, like you probably like just explode because you just you just create a shift in time and space. And
oh, okay.
Oh, I think Truman shows Truman will take like the blue pill, I guess.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, I mean, depends on which point of the movie. Like, Jim Carrey from the Truman Show at the beginning of the movie, like, that's a good idea. That's a good example of characters changing. At the beginning of the movie, he's very solo in his life, and he's basically like Neo at the beginning of the Matrix. He really wants to stick to it, but in the end, he has this longing, this wanting for another one, which sprung throughout the movie. So if you take the character at the end of the movie, he will definitely take the red pill.
Yeah, great example. Yeah.
Random character, but I think Iron Man would probably take the blue pill.
Iron Man?
I'm not sure.
No.
It depends at which time in the MCU you're looking.
I think Iron Man is so full of himself, he won't take any pills. He will say to Morpheus, I'm gonna prove it myself.
Yeah.
He might do that, yeah.
I think he might do that because, like, there's one thing which doesn't change a lot, is that how full of himself he is and how he trusts in himself. So he will probably...
but he changes a lot throughout all the MCU. He starts off being just an egotistical asshole.
Yeah.
And he goes more and more selfless as time goes on.
Yeah.
After New York, he is starting to have panic attacks. He progresses as a character. I think at the beginning... He
still pretty much stays self-centered on a lot of things. He still has this idea of everything himself.
It's just like a superficial, like, kind of selfless, like in a witty sense, more than like he's actually like selfish.
I don't think so. I think he actually progressed. The culmination of that is the snap. It's the ultimate selfless move.
It just reminded me of the choice he had to make in Endgame, whether to help them or to stay in his current situation.
Yeah, that's pretty much like it.
Yeah, that's exactly the pill problem actually he has at the beginning of the movie. And he ends up choosing the red one.
Oh, yeah,
in general, like, we can just overlap a little bit of this, like we completely overlap on the next workshop. A great conflict is choices. Like, if you want a great conflict in your movie, sometimes just choices are among the best, because this is the idea of your character having to make the right choice.
Yeah. I remember like some movie like Kai and Gabriel really like is Snowpiercer, and there were so many.
It's a great movie.
So many points like the characters were looking left or looking right.
Exactly.
Basically, choosing like to go further or go back. So that's like something similar. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, do you guys want to move on?
Yeah, to scenario 3.
Okay, so...
Although I do think there's one last character that would have been interesting on
Okay,
the
so-
whole problem.
we can go back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We
let's
talked
go.
about,
Yeah,
because Katniss,
Mm.
I'm really not sure which pill she'd take.
Depend. Like if you're talking about the Katniss from the beginning of Hunger Games 1, I think she will take the blue one to make sure that her family is okay. Like she will stay in her district as long as she knows that her sister and her mother are okay.
I don't know, because like I think if she took like at the beginning of the films, yes, like they were safe and everything, but she wasn't happy with the situation. She was always against the Capitol, so I feel like she would want to take the red pill and, you know, like change and step out and like change her life.
Yeah, but that implies a lot of risk. That's why Matrix is like talked to a lot of people. That it shows you that making the so-called right choice is some kind of involved taking a lot of risks. I'm not going to spoil how Matrix 3 ends, but yeah. For those who have seen it, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, lots happens with this red tool.
I mean, the series went to shit, but I still like
come
all 3
on.
movies.
Let's
I
not-
love all 3 movies.
Let's not debate about that, please. Because I love them.
I love all 3 movies. It's one of the only movie franchises I think stays good, but they went more and more batshit crazy while they were making it. You
This
can't
is
deny
why
that.
it's so good.
They went completely batshit crazy.
This
at
is
the
why
end.
it's so good. Nobody did it.
And now they're
afterwards.
making a 4th one.
They
Exactly.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, and nobody knows why. Like,
Yeah, it should come out
Only 3 books,
2022, I
right?
think.
Like, one
and
book.
if they just have half of the authors, like there's only one of the Wachowski sisters doing it. We don't know what's the second one doing.
We're
but
missing one of the
that's
Wachowskis.
a very weird project. I will be happy to talk about it when it's.
I mean, it's gonna
released.
make money either or, so. I think-
Yeah.
Originally, Matrix 4 and John Wick 4 was supposed to be going to be released on the same date, but now it's changed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
True.
maybe we can now move on to scenario 3, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. So the Stanley Parable is a first-person exploration game. You will play as Stanley and you will not play as Stanley. You will follow a story. You will not follow a story. You will have it. I didn't write this. I got this from the internet. You will have no choice. You're given orders by a voice-over narrator. For example, Stanley went left. Does your character follow the orders or defy them and choose free will? How will he go about the narrative?
Does your character at the end, does your character obey or not to the voiceover? Because that's basically the situation in which you are in that game. I've played it anyway. It's great. Play it.
It's a fantastic game.
It's the whole idea that you have a big authority, which is basically like the voice of God, telling you to do things. Do you do it? And now for our exercise, like definitely the Joker wouldn't do anything. He would make everything to go against that voiceover. But what about other ones? What would they do if a voice were telling them to do stuff?
Maybe it would be interesting to do Harry Potter.
Yeah, we can do
He'd
multiple
follow it.
characters in Harry Potter.
Harry Potter will follow it because basically Harry Potter goes throughout his series having a voice in his head and he doesn't follow it.
Yeah, and following Dumbledore's orders. So.
Yeah, or any Hogwarts rules.
No, I was talking about the voice of Voldemort literally in his head and he doesn't follow it.
Oh.
Well, in his defense, Voldemort is threatening to kill everyone.
You know, it honestly, Harry Potter would depend on what the voice says and who is the voice. Like, if the voice is Dumbledore, there is no problem he's following it.
Yeah,
if the voice is Voldemort, he's not.
But but the point of this scenario is that, and that's the point of the game, you don't know. So,
That's
so
the whole thing.
would
I'm
Harry
not
Potter
sure he would
follow
follow
a
it.
voice he doesn't know?
I think
I don't think he will. I think he's quite like I don't know how to say this. It's like lots of like his own thinking, like in front of things.
Yeah, and a lot of the earlier movies, he just goes off and does whatever he thinks. Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of in the later movies that he starts getting like mentorship and stuff like that. Do you guys want to do another character? We have like 3 more scenarios if you want to move on.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can explore this one a little bit more. I don't know.
I mean, it's a great game, but if Hugo and I are the only one who played it, it's not going to lead us anywhere.
Yeah, but you don't have to have played it. Like, just imagine any characters. He has a voice saying to him to do things. Like, you can even make extrapolations. Like, it's just a relationship to authority. Like, that's the whole idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because lots of stories dynamics are about that. Like, Joker movie is all about a character who has society telling him to do things, and he refuses because it ends up ruining his life. So he decides at the end to just say, "Screw it, I'm gonna destroy everything." For instance, a lot of stories are about this relationship between your main characters and big authorities telling him to do things, either he's gonna follow them or not. But we can still go over it. Sorry.
I'm thinking of another character. Jon Snow. What do you think would he do?
He will follow.
Yeah, follow.
Yeah.
Like, I know he's kind of
he'd
represented as a leader, but I think he'd follow the orders.
Oh, he would.
I mean, he followed Daenerys at the end, so.
I mean, he does.
We don't talk about the last season.
Yeah, you're right. My bad. It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
We'll just wait for the books.
Yep. If they will ever be released.
Exactly.
Or sometimes, for example, like I don't know if you guys watch like The Boys.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. For example, Homelander. What do you guys think? What will he do? Like
He'll definitely follow it.
But sometimes he also does like things.
I don't think he would.
I mean, he won't like it. That's interesting. Those kind of characters who do things that they don't like. Not all characters follow their instincts, and Homelander is definitely the type to follow and thinking how to screw you right after. So he will follow it, thinking how am I gonna surpass this voice later.
Yeah.
And so you were saying?
Me or Tim?
No, I think it was Christian or Tim. Sorry, I'm trying to. No,
I finished my sentence.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess Homelander is tricky because like he's egocentric and likes to go on his own way, but he's also very influential.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to influence him if you know how to.
Yeah, like Stormfront or Edgar something. The Gustavo Fring guy. Yeah,
exactly. So
basically, he has mummy issues and he's dealing with it.
Also, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like he crushed all his mummies, but yeah. But yeah, that's another interesting thing to think about. Writing characters which aren't in, like, it's a good situation to put your characters in, situations into which they are forced to do things they don't want to.
Yeah.
Can we take another example?
Yeah, of course.
How about Jesse Pinkman?
Who?
Jesse Pinkman.
I don't know that character.
From Breaking Bad.
Oh,
so I haven't watched it.
Oh yeah.
Neither have I.
I watched it like I think Jesse Pinkman, I think he won't. He usually has like his own kind of choices. I think no matter how like Walter White instructs him, he always has like his own ideas.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. But Walter White, maybe like at the start, he is like do whatever the life tells him. But then later, after he became Heisenberg, he will just do whatever
he wants.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You
guys should all watch like Breaking Bad. I'm sorry, I just have to.
Don't worry about it.
I started watching like 3 episodes, but I was not into it.
Yeah, a lot of people are like this. You're not into it. Yeah, but yeah, it's not for everyone. Just like every TV show. Yeah,
Yeah.
I understand.
Just like everything,
Yeah.
nothing is for everyone.
Yeah.
If everyone likes a story, it means there's a problem.
Yeah.
Most of the times.
Yeah, even like Bible, like not everyone likes it or not everyone hates it. So it's just like, yeah. And there's nothing that's for everyone, I guess.
So, you guys want to move on?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. So we have two scenarios here, but we could choose just one. So they're related to Toy Story. So in the third Toy Story, Woody must choose whether he wants to go to college with Andy or join his friends that are being abandoned and sent to a daycare, leaving Andy behind forever. So what would your character do if they were in Woody's situation?
That's basically a situation between the choice between being selfless and being altruist. Like you have the choice to sacrifice yourself for others or do your thing independent of others.
What character could we do?
I mean, we already have one who made this choice in his saga. That's Katniss. Like
Yeah,
she
that's what I was about
has
to say.
her whole internal conflict is about this choice, and she ends up choosing to go against the government in the end.
What could we do? How would Thanos act in this situation if Thanos was a toy? The little Thanos toy.
Oh, that's funny.
He'd go with Andy, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, he will make the logical choice, and there's nothing to lose in
He
this
doesn't
choice.
really
So
have friends, so
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so he doesn't really have friends. He has few loved ones. He'd just go like, say we replace Andy with what's her name? Green girl.
Gamora?
Gamora.
Yeah.
He just, if you replace Andy with Gamora, he'd just go with her.
Would he? Didn't he like?
Well, he pushed her, but she's the only person he ever loved.
That's
yeah,
true,
but
yeah.
but he pushed her. So I think if you just change the characters, forget about the toys, and replace Woody with Thanos, and replace the other toys with people that Thanos love, I think Gamora would be part of the toys being left, and Andy will be, I don't know, someone else that he loves, but who goes
he
in
only
a different
loves
path.
Gamora.
I mean, yeah, pretty much. He has two. He doesn't have a lot of loved ones. That's not a very good situation to put him into.
Well, or you could consider the whole toys being Gamora and Andy being his quest.
Yeah.
True, yeah.
And
he would choose Andy.
Well, there we see that he chose the quest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I guess we can read the second scenario.
I can, yeah. Can read it.
Go ahead if you, okay. In Toy Story 1, Woody meets the new toy boss who threatens his spot as Andy's new favorite and go-to toy. How would your character handle such rivalry? How would she or he react in front of someone who threatens his or her position by maybe being better at what your character does?
Oh, I would do. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
So that's basically the situation. We talked about a bit about character archetypes. I quickly talk about the foil, which is basically this character. Like the relation between Woody and Buzz Lightyear's in Toy Story is truly a character, Woody, meeting his mirror, Buzz, who isn't exactly like him, but has the same purpose as him and begins to like crumble in his life. So that's also a good situation to put your characters in. Like what happens when they meet someone who is a better version of them and might replace them.
Yeah.
There's a whole film based on that called Enemy, directed by Denis Villeneuve. It's all
Very
about
easy.
it's simply the story of his teacher meeting his doppelganger, and his doppelganger ends up being way better than him in any way, and he's really
Great
troubled
movie.
with that.
It's an amazing movie.
But that's interesting to think about other characters. Like, I don't know for you, but what would happen if his Joker would meet an even more chaotic character than him? Like, would it be like jealous to think, no, he's gonna steal Batman for me? I don't know.
How would?
Oh.
I never
I
thought
think
about it
he'd
with
just
Joker.
see it as an opportunity to scale up his bullshit. He'd just go even more crazy. He'd try to
Really?
surpass the crazy of the other
Make it a
guy.
competition. Yeah.
Yeah, but
he'd
we're talking
make it
like
a competition to who can put Gotham in more chaos.
yeah, maybe. I mean,
He will probably kill the other person, I guess.
yeah, of course.
I don't think he would.
But how?
I don't
Like,
think
how
he
would
would.
do it? Would we?
He'd
Yes.
find the person to be too amusing. He'd keep them around as
That's
a
pretty
rival.
much what he did with Batman. Like he could have killed him right there and then, but
No,
no.
but Batman is his enemy, I feel.
Yeah, Batman doesn't have the same objective. Like here, we're talking about
Yeah, but
real
even
rival.
then,
For
the Joker
amusement.
would keep the other one for amusement, for the scaling issues. He'd keep the other person around to have a competition with.
To keep them motivated.
Yeah.
Like
How about
we just no.
Well, it
Go ahead,
depends which
Krish.
Joker
I
you're
was just
talking
saying
about.
that. How about Joker versus Bane?
Bane. I don't.
Bane.
Yeah.
I mean, Bane has political ideas. He has like a clear goal. Joker does not. He just wants to be chaos. So that's I don't know what to do with that personally.
Yeah. I think it's like so different. Joker and all this.
Yeah,
Woody and
it all
Buzz.
depends which Joker you take, because the Joker we've been talking about is the one from The Dark Knight, but if you take the Joker from Joker, I don't think he'd do anything. He'd just crumble onto himself by seeing that other person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the Joker from his own movies, Joker movie, like the last one, he's really like just pitiful in a lot of ways. He just like crumbles in front of everything.
Maybe he'd keep the problem to himself. He wouldn't like the other person, and he'd just end up going crazy himself. Just by himself, he'd go crazy and end up killing the person.
That's the kind of situation you find a lot in mangas and animes. Like someone talked about Naruto, for instance. That's really a situation between Sasuke and Naruto. They're both the same. They have the same goal, but one of them is besting the other. But in movies, like you can do that too. Like Toy Story 1 and I mentioned Enemy. That's very usual thing to do.
Since we don't have much time left, do you want to move to the last scenario?
Yep. I guess.
So, what would your character do and how would they act if they were stuck in a place with a group of people and one of them was an imposter? So basically, how would your character play Among Us?
Basically, yeah.
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 If you guys have played Among Us, I'm assuming a lot of people have.
Yeah.
We played once.
But
So
even
not very
without playing
familiar.
Among Us, like it's a familiar situation.
Yeah, it's like
it's like
you're in a group of people and one of them is a killer. So how would your character go about like figuring things out?
Will he try to figure things out? Some wouldn't.
True, some would just
Yeah, the Joker wouldn't. The Joker would watch everything happen with a smile on his face.
Yeah. Malfoy, for example, would just tell his father.
Yeah.
And not do anything as well.
Tyrion would do like the main character does in The Thing. He'd take command and try to find out the person.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Like
He's not that... Tyrion is not that noble, though. I think Tyrion will try to flee.
No, but for the sake of saving his own life, he would.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
I think also he's relatively like witty, so I think maybe he could like get it out of someone or like through talking.
Maybe.
Yeah, he's very clever.
Yeah, he knows how to push people's buttons, so yeah.
Yes.
What other characters could we do?
Same with Littlefinger could be interesting in this situation. He'd be the imposter.
Yeah, literally.
There is one another great character for this. Have you watched Inglourious Basterds?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
Hans Landa, Colonel Hans Landa.
Yeah, Hans Landa would be very interesting in that case, yeah.
Which one it is?
Hans
I don't know.
Landa, the
It's
bad guy from Inglourious Basterds.
Oh, okay, the bad guy. Yeah, I see.
Like, yeah. What do you think he will do, Parish?
Yeah, he will
That's a
like
very
to
good
find
question.
out. He will take it out from everyone. He has that quality.
He'd torture it out of everyone.
Yeah, he torture it out.
Yeah, but maybe not in a physical abduct way. Like, he will be the kind of person who knows what's the worst for everyone, and he will do, like, methodically. Like,
Yeah.
he knows, like, I'm gonna threaten his cat for
Yeah.
that person.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tear up his nails for this one, and he will do, like, a very subsequent way of doing things.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Also for Homelander, I think there's some similarity, a little bit.
Let's try and imagine Homelander without his powers, because it's too
Yeah.
easy for him, of course. But like this kind of characters, like craziness.
Even if you take him with all his powers, I think Homelander would just kill everyone and say, "I got the murderer."
Yeah, yeah. Even without his powers, like he will still try to do it.
He'd just kill everyone, saying, "Okay, but at least I got the bad guy."
Yeah.
But without affecting like the total image
Doesn't
of
that
the
make him worse than the
vault.
murderer?
Yeah, but that's
don't
why the
talk
voice is
about
so
that.
great.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone want to add a character or good?
Yeah. No. For Batman,
Did we
what do you
talk
think Batman would do? Like,
I mean, Batman is basically Sherlock Holmes. He will find the
Yeah.
killer by investigating.
He's the
Yeah.
greatest detective of all time.
Yeah.
We'll need the money to figure out who's the killer. Well, yeah, that was like the last exercise
Yeah,
we had.
we had at the end an exercise like last time, an exercise to do between the two. We
Yeah,
can
like
still
if you
show it.
are interested, you can like take a picture of it or something.
Yeah, I'm
You
gonna
wanna do it.
read it very quickly.
Mm.
We thought about two exercises because we thought if maybe some people made the first one, we can just like add up on it. Like first one is basically character school writing. If you already have a character, like if you feel like you prefer write before like the life of someone and have a character, just find a way to torture him, basically, or her. This is basically how stories begin. Something goes wrong.
Put your characters in hell.
Yeah, once you have your character, just think of ways you can put him or her into difficult situations, whether they are physical or moral or intellectual. Anyway, this is how most stories work. And if you don't have a character and don't feel like beginning with character, just think in terms of situation. Like just create a status quo. Like I don't know, a farm boy living in his sand planet with two sons who walks up a message about saving a princess. You have it. Star Wars. Just create a status quo, a stable situation, and in that status quo, you're gonna find a disturbance, which way you like. But it's gonna be, of course, if you don't have a character, it's gonna be a bit more about ideas and like this is how you find high concept movies. You know, Jaws began with just people thinking, oh, people in the summer at the beach, a shark attacks. That's it, and you have a great movie. But yeah, just find the status quo and find ways to disturb it. And then I'm gonna just read out loud the last because I think it's important. Don't restrain yourself to one kind of inspiration simply because anything could do, and it's easy to get stuck. It's very easy to lock yourself in your room to think about script, but sometimes it doesn't help. just be open to any kind of inspiration, whether it's existing movies, what if scenarios like we just made out, your own life, other people's life, newspaper, anything could do. Like when you're writing characters, you can lock yourself in your room because you're writing someone else's life. But when you start with stories, like basically you have inspiration out of stories from everywhere.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
be very open, stay open to that. And the hard part is to commit to an idea, because it's great to have ideas and to let them hanging around, but at some point you have to write, and that's basically the difference between a random person and scriptwriters and artists. They commit to this and start developing them. So try to stick to one, not just find tens of it.
Right.
That's all we have for this workshop.
Wow, that's great. Thank you guys.
Thank
Yeah, it
you.
was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys.
Thanks.
I'm gonna stop.
Like,
Right.
but it relied a lot on having a lot of people, because like there was a lot of discussion to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can share those exercises. I mean, with the,
Yeah,
in the
that would be
I can
nice.
send you guys the link to the
to the rest of the group.
PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah, you
that.
can still share the exercises on the Facebook page. Just like put the guidelines for the exercise for the next workshop.
Yeah, I have the link with me right now. So
Because if I'm not wrong, the next workshop is going to be a lot about. It's going to be story based. It's going to be basically the opposite of what we just did. If I'm not wrong.
Yeah, it will be on scenes and dialogues.
I shared the PowerPoint with the chat, so you guys can, I guess, share it on Facebook or whatever. Yeah, how do I stop recording?
And that was recorded. Sorry.
Oh, pause, stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.